Hi. Before we close out the discussion of deals as games, I just want to point out that there are two ways you can portray the deal-making game. One way is in terms of cells, the other is a decision tree. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate this, and then there's lots of resources on the web that discuss this. It's discussed in my book, The Art and Science of Technology Transfer. I don't want to spend a lot of time going into detail, just enough so that you're aware that you can do it this way. Let me demonstrate it now. Okay, we can put a game in a box form pretty easily. Here's a 3-strategy game. Each party, there's 2 parties, so there's 3 strategies for 2 parties. One's a sale, one's a joint venture, one's a license. Again, we have sale, joint venture, and license. And we can calculate what the payoffs are to party 1 and put that there, and the payoff to party 2, put it there, and we got X1 and then X2, Y2, and you get this populated with the payoffs calculated however you see fit to calculate it. Now, there's another way to depict this. Here's the deal. There's 3 options: a sale, a joint venture, a license. If I'm pursuing a license, there are 3 options here that have to do with both what I may do and under these, depending upon what I do, there's 3 options for the other guy to do something. The numbers don't have to be 3, I just happen to use that here. Notice that there's a certain probability, a certain likelihood of this happening. This has a 25% probability of happening. This has a 25% probability of happening. This has a 50% probability of happening. If I know as I go down and I calculate the probabilities out, I can also figure out the value at each node, because that's going to be the values times the probabilities coming up, and I figure that out, and I can figure out what the value at each node is as I work my way down the decision tree, so I can figure out which one of these paths all the way down to the end I want to take in order to do a deal. So that's how you can view it, either as a game in cells or you can view it as a decision tree. Really doesn't matter which way you go. Remember that not every node in the decision tree has to be a node at which somebody makes a decision. Some of these nodes down here or elsewhere on the decision tree may refer to events that will or will not occur. Will there be a recession, which will make it harder to do a license? If I'm looking for a joint venture, and will the interest rates soar? And if the interest rates soar, then the partner's less likely to have cash to invest in a joint venture. Things like that, which are beyond my control, but I can still take them into account in a decision tree. So anyways, that wraps up our initial discussion of games. I'm going to do a quick summary of the whole overview on the that we've done so far, and then we're going to move on to market research. Hi. As we close out this introductory part of our video training, where we're just trying to give you an overview of what commercialization is, I want to go back over what we've learned and then sort of wrap it up for you. Remember, we started out and said, who's the end user? Who's that person wearing those funny glasses with the little mitt on the end of it, where you're going to take that ball and try and catch the ball in the glasses? Hey, that person's me. I'm the person who's touching it, wearing the glasses. I am the end user. I know something about me. I know my education. I know my skill levels. I know a bunch of stuff about me, my capabilities, so on and so forth. If I'm doing a different thing, like I'm going in to manufacture a foam piece and I want to bring a new manufacturing technology into a factory where a bunch of factory manufacturing workers are going to use it with direct numerical control machinery, then I want to know who they are, what their skill levels are, things like that. I want to know what they're doing. In this case of this, I'm just playing a game. In this case, what they're doing is running a bunch of direct numerical control machinery. I want to know why they're doing it. Me, I'm doing it to have fun. That's the utility for me. They're doing it because they want to make these foam things and they want to do it as cheaply and fast as possible. I'm not necessarily in a hurry to do this. I'm just trying to entertain myself. So we have different goals depending upon the practice that we're involved in. I want to know where they're doing it. The factory environment's a lot dirtier than my house where I'm playing with this. If I'm going to be in a factory, unless it's a clean room, it's probably dirtier. So whatever I'm bringing in, if I'm bringing a new machine in, it has to be more robust, probably be able to handle a different kind of environment. If it needs a special kind of electricity, low harmonics, for example, I have to make sure that infrastructure is in place. Or if it's an optical table it needs, I have to make sure there's not too much vibration in the area. I may have to create a special kind of building that has low vibration or whatever. And I need to know when it's being done. Is it being done once? It's only being done for a little while. So if this thing lasts me a month and then it breaks, I don't care because I'm bored with it by that time. But if I'm buying a piece of machinery to make these by the millions and it breaks in a month, I'm really upset. Now, when I know what my end user wants in terms of the 5 W's, where they are, who they are, what they're doing, why they're doing it, where they're doing it, when they're doing it, I can begin to determine the price, performance, ease of use mix that will be the metrics that will determine what products have a competitive advantage for this end user. And if that competitive advantage is sustainable over time, and in order to determine that, I look at market forces which will skew buying behavior by either pulling it closer in time, pushing it away, somehow shaping that Gaussian distribution of buying behavior curve in different shapes. I can also look at market barriers, which in certain periods of time may slice off customer segments so they're not even in the market. An example of a market force might be the enforcement of regulations. An example of the more stringent the enforcement, the more people take them seriously, the more that may skew buying behavior because they're not going to buy technologies that pollute if they know they're going to be fined for doing it. If they're not going to be fined, they may buy them. So I have to think about a whole, that's a market force. A market barrier might be the introduction of a superior technology which I can't overcome. It just slices out. You know, here's an iPod that I finally bought one because all my kids have one. I actually like the thing. So the introduction of the iPod may ultimately replace, for me, buying lots of CDs because now I'm just buying them in digital format that they go on my iPod, so on and so forth. Anyways, if I can have a sustainable competitive advantage over time with my technology, then I can sell it to this end user. I have to, of course, figure out the launch tactics, but I can sell it to them. And if I can sell it to them, odds are if I'm selling it to them for enough money that there's profits to be made, somewhere along the supply chain I will find somebody who wants to do a deal in order to acquire the technology because they would like to exploit that opportunity to make